Greetings, acolytes of the Sith, and welcome back to the channel. We have been expecting you. Recently, we have been doing a numerous amount of lore videos revolving around one Sith Lord Exar Kun, the pioneer of the legendary double-bladed lightsaber and saber staff. Exar Kun plowed through many beings effortlessly in lightsaber combat, despite only being in a handful of duels in his life. He nearly dominated every single time, not losing a lightsaber duel once. He remains one of only two beings in the history of the lore to have never lost a lightsaber duel, despite engaging in a multitude during his lifetime. Exar Kun was one of the most powerful Jedi, and Sith alike, being a pioneer of many Force abilities. Exar Kun was regarded as one of the most powerful Sith Lords the galaxy had ever seen, on par with a being like Marco Ragnos and Freedon Nad, with Exar Kun even obliterating the spirit of Freedon Nad using an ancient Sith artifact imbued with historic dark-side energy. Freedon Nad and Exar Kun were both exceptionally powerful Dark Lords. But today, we are going to be immersing ourselves in how powerful Exar Kun actually was, and how formidable this dark side prodigy and Jedi truly was, after tapping into both the light and the dark sides of the Force, and being cut off from one side of the Force entirely. The venerated Jedi Master Sidious once named Exar Kun the most formidable student that he had ever trained, something that would remain consistent throughout his long life. And his power in the Force only expanded and mutated once he accepted the dark side into his heart. Once a choice was made, Kun lost the ability to tap into the light side of the Force, as shown by his loss of the ability to draw on the light side to employ Force deflection in various fights, as well as, most notably, against the weapons of the Masasai, the warrior caste of the Sith purebloods. But the dark side offered a variety and myriad of new possibilities and new abilities to master, allowing him to experiment with various practices in the dark side that the Jedi deemed too dangerous to ever be attempted. Before becoming a Sith, Exar Kun began drawing and manifesting on dark side energies, when he flew into a furious Force rage upon being clawed by Silva, and then brutally defeated her, and while in his enraged state, attempted to end her life, being stopped only by a critical strike from his master Sidious. He felt a similar loathing and fury when he looted the Sith tomb, and the cultists that were protecting the honourable tomb of the Sith Lord tried to stop him. When he submitted to the dark side fully, at the behest of Marco Ragnos and Freedon Nad, he became able to invoke rages with more ease, augmenting his already masterful connection to the dark side even further. Moreover, he could use the Force to guide his attacks to cause more harm and more detriment to his enemies. Similarly, Exar Kun could augment his body with the Force, making use of the ability known as Battle Mind. Kun also possessed a keen Force sense, and was effortlessly able to detect the location of the Masasai via their natural dark side affinity and presence, as well as perceive the power in their temples that they had constructed, later knowing the exact specific location and magical items held by other Sith mages. Kun also performed great leaps using Force augmentation and bounty if required, even dodging a Sith worm, an incredibly versatile combatant who was an ancient Sith spawn. He could also step off ledges and land safely, even if these ledges were multiple meters above the ground. Kun could bolster his physical might to the point that he shattered the Dark Holocron, one of the most notable dark side holocrons, with a single punch, freeing the Sith power contained within the artifact to infect and turn Jedi who watched him to the darkness. Later, he was so strong that he was able to almost effortlessly hack apart Master Sidious' Force-imbued staff and slay the Jedi, despite it being his original master. He could also use telekinesis in a myriad of unique ways and techniques, such as pulling a lightsaber to his hand or drawing a Sith amulet into his hand from across a grand hall, with Exar Kun's midichlorian count estimated as being even higher than that of Grand Master Yoda, roughly around the range of 19,000 midichlorians per cell. He was a rare exception for this time, and perhaps the second highest midichlorian count of all of the Old Republic era, falling short to only the venerated and legendary Emperor Valkorion. After becoming a Sith Lord, he could employ the Force Wound ability to destroy the internal organs of foes, hurl people and items away from himself, and create a unique plethora of small whirlwinds to buffet, trap, or harm beings. He was also able to use the Force Pull Disarm technique, as demonstrated when he ripped the Dark Holocron from the hands of Odan nearly effortlessly. Kun was able to fling Silvar away with relative ease. Kun also had the ability to raise the Corsair with telekinetic might. His defenses against telekinesis, however, were not perfect and impenetrable. However, as Odin subjected him to a lethal Force strike upon the Sith set of the Holocron that managed to penetrate his border. Kun developed strong mental force powers and prowess, like a formidable variation of the mind trick, notably using a Sith spell and ritual to mesmerize the entire Galactic Senate and dominate the minds of even the formidable and noteworthy Supreme Chancellor, forcing and subjecting him to preach the Sith philosophy of all who were listening. Kun's magic and Sith abilities could be used to slay those who he touched and broke the minds of. Kun was unfazed by the Sith illusions Keto tried to use to stop him, with Kun's mental barriers being far superior to nearly anyone of this time. Kun could learn how to speak a tongue by stealing the knowledge from another's mind, literally invading their thought process in order to learn an entirely new language and fragments of information. His telepathic abilities occasionally extended to the reaches of the galaxy, while bearing a Sith amulet, as in his attempt to eliminate potential rivals and beings who could challenge his abilities. He was able to detect other Sith practitioners in the galaxy. Kun could also briefly stun his rivals and use the Force to resist Force energy. Also, he was nearly knocked back by Jedi Master Oden Er's combination of a Force Strike and Sever Force, and the Jedi Master was unable to kill off the Sith midichlorians, with him using a dark variation of Sever Force like Darth Nihilus, with Darth Nihilus using Sever Force in a dark method to literally invade his Master Darth Trey's cells and kill the midichlorians thriving within her. Kun could stun his rivals and was exceptionally formidable in the art of this. Kun may have been able to heal himself of his bones being broken in 100 places, though it is not clear if he did the healing or the ghost of Freed Nad performed the dark healing. One of the only beings in all galactic history to actually learn how to do Sith healing, along with the likes of Darth Nihilus and Darth Sion, two other extremely powerful Dark Lords. Exile Kun had great skill with the Force Blast power, using it in Thralls of Rage while wearing a Sith amulet and boosted by the power of a Sith temple, to murder a huge gargantuan Sith worm and slaughter hundreds of Masasai before destroying the Force Ghost of Freed Nad himself, a being who surpassed even the strength of Naga Sadow and the mightiest of the ancient Sith Lords. Later, he effortlessly knocked out Al Makito with a Force Blast. On Yavin 4, Kun intensely studied Sith magic, learning how to unleash enormous amounts of destructive, nigh-unparalleled dark side energy and alchemy with Sith machines. Even more so once he discovered Naga Sadow's ancient Sith Corsair, which allowed him to wrench fire from the skies during the Great Hyperspace War. Kun understood how to use the ship to wrench fire from the skies as well as incur supernovas, though he never got the chance to use this function of the ship in battle, due to the fact he was killed when he was roughly 25 years old, and never got to explore the true upper limits of his immense force potential. The discovery of the Corsair also allowed Kun to research Sith alchemy, an ancient art which he would quickly master, predating the arrival of the Dark Jedi exiles on Korriban, dating back over 100,000 years to the original surgence of the Sith purebloods on Korriban. Kun eventually gained the ability to create monstrous dark side creatures, such as Torrentatex, ancient beings who fed on the dark side of the Force and Force energy, as well as Sith worms, that would continue to pose a menace long after the end of the Great Sith War that Kun incurred. Kun was able to drain vitality from his opponents, being a master of Force Drain, either to heal himself or simply reduce their personal Force reservoir in order to overcome them more quickly. When he delved deeper into Sith magic, Kun discovered pathways he did not truly comprehend, but he used any way to free himself of his body, via power of the Sith temple and the magical site within, at the end of the Great Sith War, at the expense of thousands of Masashi lives, draining them, using Force Drain on a continental scale. While he had become a master of the arcane ways of the dark side, Exile Kun was most noted and venerated as the creator of the double-bladed lightsaber, shining most with his vaunted lightsaber ability, more than perhaps any other dark side and light side user in history, which he began to hone and master in training duels with the Cathar Crado and Silva on Dantooine. His preferred form was Nightmare, with it being the culmination of all previous 5 lightsaber forms put together, incorporating all strengths while having none of the weaknesses of all previous forms. It employed the simplisticness of Shi-Cho, the blade work of Makashi, the defense of Sarisu, the Avatar, as well as the acrobatics and gymnastics of Ataru, the spirit and power of the gems So and Shien, all culminate in this one lightsaber form. Kun was also vastly capable in the use of Jar Kai style, rivaling a being like Darth Krayt being one of the greatest Sith Lords in history. Even as an apprentice, Kun was strong enough to best his master Vodo Ciel Sparse, although his combat style tapped into an inner anger that worried his master concerning his connection to the light side, and worried that he was falling seductively into the allure of the dark. An overwhelming and unrivaled combatant with his single-bladed lightsaber, Kun would later add to his arsenal by innovating and mastering the double-bladed lightsaber, pioneering the saber staff that Darth Maul would use over 4 millennia prior, which was a previously unseen weapon in his time. Kun's formidable prowess in combat was augmented by his tactical brilliance, rivaling that of a being like Darth Revan, and utilizing the adaptability of his double-bladed lightsaber. By suddenly modifying and malforming the intensity or length of one of his blades, Kun was often able to trick his opponents into overextending themselves, and creating openings for fatal counter-strikes, and death-destroying blows, ending most duels in just a few strikes if they were not a pure master. Coupling his tactics with his ability to peer into the Force and predict his enemy's next actions, Kun became a nigh unbeatable force. However, Kun admitted single-handedly he could not defeat the whole Jedi Order if they all gathered to fight him at once. In addition to his proficiency with the lightsaber, Kun was also handy with a modern blaster pistol and with vibro weapons. Kun was fluent in Basic, Arakian, Vryle, Cathariz, Creva, and Tatan, along with the ancient Sith language that the purebloods used after his corruption to the dark side at the hands of Freed Nad. Kun was a strong, formidable, and ruthless leader, able to command the Masasai with ease once he provided his dark side loyalty and might, exerting his superiority over them. Moreover, Kun was a canny speaker and liar, able to inspire a multitude of Jedi acolytes to follow him into the overwhelming shadow and abyss with his half-truths and deceits, even convincing those who entered the room where he murdered Odan that their old master had died of old age, something that Kun was unprecedented at. These tricks were enough to get 20 Jedi to follow him to Yavin 4 and corrupted into the darkness. Once he converted the Jedi under his sway to the dark side, they willingly, per their magically twisted mindsets, went out to kill their masters. Moreover, Kun recovered from being thrown into a chair by the telekinetic attack of Odan and then got back up, and fatally wounded the Jedi Master with his own dark side prowess. Kun was a fair architect, at least able to manage projects of grand scale and organize the creation of hundreds of dark side temples that would last for thousands of years after his physical demise. However, it should be noted that he was noted as following Naga Sidow's plans and had very loyal builders, connected and bound to his very will. Kun's power expanded after his physical death, though he lost the ability to employ some Force techniques such as Force Lightning, no longer bound to a mortal body, and now mere apparition. Luke Skywalker considered Exar Kun's power to be on par with Palpatine from Dark Empire, who in turn was a rival to Emperor Vitiate and Darth Nihilus, if not being actually more powerful than the previous aforementioned Sith Lords. Kun gained the ability to manifest when he pleased amongst his network of temples on Yavin 4, appear in the minds of others as a venerated spirit, and even possess his targets in a spiritual form. Kun was still strong enough to complete great Force feats of power that rivaled Palpatine, such as sundering Luke Skywalker's spirit from his body and helping Kip Duron, a powerful prodigious Jedi, bring forth the Sun Crusher from Yavin's son. But he was weak enough that he was unable to prevent his own physical demise and spiritual death at the hands of a group of Jedi apprentices in the final death in 11 ABY. Well, my acolytes, my students, my friends, and my lightsaber combatants, what did you think of this video? Do you agree with me that Exar Kun might very well be the most formidable lightsaber duelist in history? Or do you personally believe that beings like Tulak Horde, Grandmaster Yoda, Darth Vader, and Grandmaster Luke Skywalker surpass him? Exar Kun is one of the most noteworthy practitioners of the dark side in Legends continuity, giving way to the Jedi Civil War pioneered by both Revan and Malak. Exar Kun's legacy will continue to echo through the pages of Star Wars history, long after his physical demise. Farewell, my acolytes. I'll see you in a galaxy far, far away. And remember to kneel before the dragon of Zakul.